We're on one of Royal Caribbean's older ships, Explorer of the Seas. We always get asked which Royal Caribbean ship should I choose, and are the older ships just as good as the newer ships? Well, we're going to let you know. We're going to tell you all you need to know about the older ships versus the newer ships and see which ones are better. Plus fun, food and everything else that is going on. But first, coffee.
This video is sponsored by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform to build your online presence. Want a coffee, but no chance I'm waiting in that queue. Let's go find somewhere else. Got my coffee, thank gosh, need that in the morning. It's a little bit of a miserable day today, so it is a good chance to tell you the differences between the newer ships and the older ships. First of all, this ship is quite old, so Explorer of the Seas is 24 years old, and in ship terms, that's quite old really. She's a little bit smaller as well, so she holds 3,800 passengers. This is a good 1,500, even more or less than the newer, bigger ships. But after our coffee, I'm going to take you around and tell you what the differences are, and whether or not it's just as good as one of the newer ships. You'll be surprised with some of the things. Cheers, guys. As luck would have it, we've actually got one of the newer ships right next to us. This is an Oasis class ship, and it is absolutely gigantic. She holds almost 7,000 people, so almost double the size of this ship. So this is one nice thing about the older ships. They are a lot smaller. These mega ships are so wide, they're actually about the same length, so they're not much longer than this ship. It's just that they're almost double the width, which is really crazy. But yeah, it's really great being in port like this and getting some amazing views. You can have a little look at all of the balconies and the different types of cabins. We can see hot tubs, we can see normal balconies. It's really cool. Ooh, it's a bit chilly out here for the Caribbean actually.
So which one do you prefer? The big ships or the smaller and older ships? Let us know in the comment section below. We'd love to hear what you think. And while you're there, give us a subscribe. We really do appreciate it.
Now, one important thing to compare is the outdoor areas. Older ships like Explorer of the Sea still have really good outdoor and pool areas with hot tubs, large pools, and plenty of sunbeds and bathing areas. The newer ships just look more modern and include things like infinity hot tubs and pools, as well as more slides and features, and maybe a covered solarium. But that doesn't mean that the old ships don't have lots of features and things to do, like a sports court, a flowrider surf simulator, newly installed slides, and things like mini golf. But on the older ships, older than Explorer of the Seas, you may find less things such as only a climbing wall. And we really like the adults only solarium area on Explorer of the Seas.
Got my towel, checked it out. Remember to check it back in because they'll charge you $25.
What a rip-off.
$25 for this rack. Who'd steal this? They're the most manky towels ever. They're clean, but they're not luxury.
We've came to the solarium now. This is for over 16s only, and it is nice and quiet, much quieter than the family pool because lots of families have got back on early. Oh, it's very chilly, but it's very nice indeed. I'm not really a sunbather. I prefer to spending time in the pool and then doing things like trivia on a cruise ship. We're not really sunbather types. Just because we're in the sun a lot, we're very lucky. I don't want to like turn into leather.
Relax time.
So obviously one of the major differences between the newer and older ships, it's obvious, is the age. So these ships do look a little bit 2000s, noughties, a little bit 90s here and there. They often even look a little bit more traditional than the newer ships, so less plastic and white and more real wood and glass. And when it comes to glass, there's a lot of it. The older ships have so many more windows, which is really, really nice. It's something that's missing on the bigger ships, especially the Oasis class ships. There isn't many views of the outside, but on this ship, there's windows all the way around, which is really nice. And there's a lounge and a bar as well, which is really fantastic, where you can have lovely views all across the ship. It's something that is missing from the newer ships, unfortunately, but it's something that we really like because we like to see that we're at sea. It's one of the benefits, actually being able to see, even outside, the rails are a lot lower, so you can actually see clear views of the sea. On other ships, it's glass really high up, so you can't really see without having something in the way. So even though there is a lot of windows on these types of ships, they can appear a little bit darker sometimes, because the lighting technology isn't quite as good as it is now. So they do seem very yellowy, a little bit darker, and not quite as bright and open as the newer ships. But that really isn't a problem. We quite like this look. It feels very traditional. It feels almost like what cruising should feel like, if you know what I mean. And it is nice to see the older ships. We really enjoy going on both types. I mean, just look at this view. It's fantastic of the Royal Promenade. It features on lots of the older ships as well, just like the newer ones, but it isn't quite as big, but still pretty impressive anyway.
Despite the ships being older, you'll actually find a lot of the same bars and venues on here that you do on the newer ships. So considering the smaller passengers, a lot of these bars and lounges are the same size as the bigger ships, or even bigger actually.
Oh, I really do love a good promenade deck. That's one thing that you get on these older ships, is just seems to be a little bit more of outdoor space, which is really fantastic. One thing though, because these are older ships, as we said, she's like 25 years of age, so she's starting to show her age a little bit. Just around the edges, maybe not quite as clean, not as modern and fresh as the brand new ships. Things are starting to look a bit rusty and old, but there's some kind of charm with that as well. One thing that comes with older ships as well, not all old ships, but some of them, they do get a little bit more smellier than the newer ships. A little bit of sewerage here and there, maybe a little bit of smoke from the engines, because the technology wasn't as good when it was built than it is now. Now, one thing that unfortunately Royal haven't done is updated a lot of their older ships. A few ships in the fleet were supposed to have massive $100 million makeovers, but it just didn't happen because of COVID. This ship, Explorer of the Seas, was due to have that makeover, but unfortunately, the only thing added to this ship in her recent refurbishment was the slide. And that was really it, and just a few touches up here and there. But yeah, she is looking a little bit rough around the edges. We can't deny that, but in some ways that's a little bit charming because she feels like a proper maritime-y boat.
I do feel like you get a lot more breathing space on the older ships, and particularly on this class of ship, because you're never too far from an outdoor space, whether it be the promenade deck, which we're having a little wander around now, or up to the pool decks. It just feels like you can connect a lot more with the sea.
So earlier on we were talking about there being more windows and things on the ship. This is the main dining room in here. I'm just on the promenade deck still, and look at these windows. They are huge with so much light coming into the room, so that's something that we really like. You just don't see that on the Oasis class ships, the Quantum class ships, and it's something that we really like. It's something that really sets these older ships apart. And that really brings it down to the destinations these ships go to as well. These ships are definitely better for scenic sailing because you get these big windows and big views. That's why some of these older ships do more exotic itineraries, longer itineraries to some of the islands that aren't often visited. So you do get a wider choice of itineraries with these older ships as well. The newer, bigger ships usually tend to do the same thing all of the time. So either they'll be doing the Caribbean all year round or just during winter, and then they'll be doing the Mediterranean in the summer. Then a few of the ships will go up to Alaska, but there isn't as much choice. The older ships tend to do much more worldwide type itineraries, Asia, Australia. I mean, there is exceptions to that. There are Quantum class ships, which are big ships now sailing in Asia and Australia as well.
And the problem with being bigger and wider means that you have less ports to get into. You are more restricted when you do take the bigger ships of what ports you will be visiting. As Ben said, the smaller and older ships do tend to do more exotic itineraries and can get into ports that are not as big and take smaller ships.
We built our website using Squarespace, and it saved us so much time and effort. You too can build a beautiful website using Squarespace. It's just so easy. There's loads of customizable templates and dynamic layouts. It takes just minutes to put together pages complete with images, videos, text, and SEO optimization. We used to dread making changes and adding more content. It was always such a faff, but not anymore. Highlights for us are the powerful blogging tools. We can quickly categorize content and engage with our viewers through the comment system. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and then when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Ben and David to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. That's not to say these ships are falling apart though. They are still in really good condition. They often change the carpets and things like that. Everything's nice and shined. So all of the knobs and things have got lovely shiny edges, which we like to see. And as we said, there's lots of wood as well, natural wood and natural materials. Nowadays everything's plasticky and kind of fake and shiny, but this is real stuff, real metal, real wood. the real McCoy. And there's plenty of areas on these ships to enjoy, as David said, lots of bars, restaurants. You're still not going to go bored. And on every single Royal Caribbean ship, you're going to find a theatre as well. Obviously on the newer ships, it's going to be a much bigger theatre, and you get lots of shows ranging from production shows to guest acts, comedians, things like that. On the bigger ships, however, you do tend to get more big shows like Broadway style shows and West End shows. But on Independence of the Seas, which is an older ship, you have Grease the musical. But yeah, there's lots of things on here. There's a dancing show, there's a Beatles show, so plenty of entertainment. That goes for the ship as a whole. You're going to find most of the same entertainment. So things like dance parties. We do find that the dance parties are much better on these smaller ships. Just because there's less locations to gather, everybody tends to be in the middle of the ship in the Royal Promenade. So it seems to have a little bit of a better atmosphere in the parties. We do really prefer that. And all of the ships feature things like trivia, game shows. No matter what ship you're on, you're still going to get that Royal Caribbean feel. It doesn't really make a difference if it's a big ship or a small ship. Oh my God, that was hard to say. Try saying big ship, small ship 3 times fast. Oh my God, it's easy to make a mistake.
And when it comes to cabins, they're basically the same really, just a little bit smaller and of course a little bit more dated with the decor and things like that, and maybe they don't have as many USB outlets and charging points, but everything else is basically the same. Even the selection that you get on the TVs is the same as what is on the newer ships. But one thing you will find is that there is less selection on the older ships. Of course, they don't have as many types of cabin, they don't have as many suites. You don't find them huge loft suites on these older ships. But you still have balcony cabins, inside cabins, all the other standard types of cabin, but maybe just less choice.
Yes, definitely less choice. But you do get things like junior suites and grand suites still. But lots of these older ships don't have big suite-only areas that are found on the newer ships, where you'll have your private restaurant, private lounge, some with even their private outdoor areas as well are a little bit more limited on these types of ships. But what isn't limited are the balconies. We really like the balconies on the older ships. In so many more cases, they are slightly bigger than the new ships. They really are. You get a little bit more space, which is really lovely. But yeah, a big selection of cabins. So feeling a little bit hungry now, so we're going to go for some dinner at the buffet and show you the food. It is quite similar on all Royal Caribbean ships. So the buffet that we're going to go to tonight will be very similar that you'll get on any Royal Caribbean ship, no matter how big, new or old it is. Let's go have some food, shall we? Starving. Right, we've just sat down in the buffet. Let's go take a look at the selection, shall we? We found Explorer of the Seas buffet basically the same as any other Royal Caribbean ship. It really doesn't tend to vary. Lots of hot dishes, salads, but some of the presentation was a little bit messy. You'll also find a bread station, an American section with fries, burgers and hot dogs, as well as all of the fixings. There's plenty for kids too, including chicken tenders, fries and mac and cheese. And there's also a live pasta station, cheeses and meats, and lots of desserts to choose from, including cookies, as well as fresh fruit. So a pretty good selection. It isn't as good as it used to be, but it isn't too bad. We haven't ate here on a night in a while, so got a big plate of food. Went for a huge, gigantic pork chop, which is ridiculously big. A hot dog, some chicken, a little bit of everything. Let's try the pork chops, shall we, first of all? Well, slap me in the mouth with a meat cleaver and call me a pork chop, because that pork chop is bloomin' delicious, and so is the gravy. Now, the buffet, this ship is completely full, and once again, they've completely closed down half of it. I have absolutely no idea why. It's just a bit of a mess. It's a bit chaotic, guys. There's far too many people queuing for everything, so it's taking ages to get any food. Then by the time you get back to your table, it's all bloomin' cold. And this is on every single type of ship, no matter if it's old or new. We were just on Symphony of the Seas a few weeks back, one of the newer ships. Half the buffet shut down, which is really sad because it makes it really busy and uncomfortable in here, and I don't like it. We usually like eating in the buffet, but it's really putting us off lately. It really is. Lots of cutbacks that are just making cruising not quite as good as it used to be. Pretty good selection tonight, in all fairness, and the food's pretty good. I'm not offended.
They do have a theme each evening. Tonight is Mediterranean theme, but you always find the regular stuff on there, a curry, burgers, hot dogs, salads, and all the desserts and things like that. I went for a gigantic salad. I just poured everything on there that was available. And then I also got something that I'm not quite sure what it is. It's called Suppe. That's all it said. And I think the Suppe just means soup. Do you know what? That is absolutely delicious. It's kind of like a leek and potato soup with some vine leaves in it. I am loving the Suppe. Still a bit peckish and greedy, so I went back and got some more, and I really fancied getting the curry because I do love my curries. I got the paneer curry. Let's give this a go. It's very bland. It's got absolutely no flavour to it at all. Not really any spice as well. But it did come with poppadoms, and these are my favourite. Yum.
It's not a meal, is it, without something in bowl form? Went for the meatballs because it is it's not meatball night, it's Italian night on board. So
well, it is Meatball Monday.
Meatball Monday, yep. So I'm going to have a little taste of these and see what it's like. I've got a bit of chicken parmesan as well on the side as well. Very Italian, but yes, feeling a bit peckish. Ugh, Princess Consuela's sweaty banana hammock. Those balls are not good, guys. Oh, they've got a really weird chewy taste. The pasta's really nice. I've just had a quick try of the chicken parmesan and that's pretty good as well, but those meatballs are not the one. Those balls can go back where they belong, in the bin. They're not very nice at all, but yeah, the pasta's okay and the sauce is okay. They've just got a really odd taste. Not good. But all is good in the world now because we've got dessert, we've got a lemon meringue pie, a little chocolate cake, as well as a cookie. Ooh, that tart is tingling my taste buds. That lemon meringue pie is actually very good and it's substantially sized as well. No little finger food here, that was a big old pie. The chocolate cake's okay, a little bit bland. And a cookie's a cookie, very good. We do love a cookie, you can't go wrong, can you? I mean, how can you bugger up a cookie? Overall, pretty good for a buffet. When it comes to food offerings on older versus newer ships, there is only a slight difference. It's very similar, with newer ships basically offering a little more choice. Most of the older ships have a few extra paced specialty restaurants, where the bigger and newer ships have more, such as the Wonderland Experience and 150 Central Park. When it comes to complimentary quick service venues, the older ships still tend to have something like a cafe promenade, serving snacks, sandwiches and things like that, as well as pizzas. The newer ships take this further by having a separate cafe and Sorrento's Pizza serving pizza, and other dining venues such as El Taco Fresh Mexican and Park Cafe. And on the bigger ships there's the Solarium Bistro, another extra buffet, and places like the Doghouse serving hot dogs. The buffet is very similar no matter what ship you're on. You'll mostly find the same food selection, and the same goes for the main dining rooms as well. The menus are exactly the same across the fleet. No matter what ship, you're going to be getting the same menu. Just the venues tend to be a little bit differently decorated. We're going to go do something fun now and talk about the features and activities on the different types of ships. Let's go down. That's what she said. Top tip, take the stairs. You burn calories off from all of those three cakes you ate in the buffet. Just saying for a friend, I didn't eat 3 cakes, obviously, but I'm going to take the stairs anyway because I want to be something called healthy. I've heard it. It's a word that buzzes around healthiness, fitness. Oh, nearly fell down the stairs. Talking about fitness, I'm not going to fit in this shirt much longer. Too much food. So we're heading to Studio B. This is the ice rink on board. Yes, I said an ice rink. These old ships still have some amazing features.
Cat stuff. Top tip, don't do the ice skating just after you've had a whole plate of curry, a massive salad, 3 desserts and a bowl of soup. That's extra luggage you've got to skate around with you. I think I'm getting the hang of it now. I even overtook somebody as well.
Okay, let's do this, some ice skating. It's on. Oh, I stopped in time. Oh my gosh, that was so much fun. Fantastic things to do on this ship. Remember, only because it's an old ship doesn't mean it doesn't have some of the big attractions, but the newer ships are going to be better in this respect. They'll have brand new things like aqua theatres, they'll have skydiving simulators, the North Star, which is a huge arm which comes up over the ship, as well as dodgems and rollerblading, and so much more. Lots more technology as well, things like robotic arms and robotic bartenders and screens and all sorts. But That's one of the downsides with the old ships, but hey, you will usually find less families and kids on these ships than you do on the bigger ships, so that's definitely a plus as well. And because these ships are a little bit older, they usually are a little bit cheaper as well. That's one of the great things. The newest ships that come out by Royal Caribbean are always the most expensive. It's just the way it is. So you can always grab a better bargain on this type of ship, one of the older ones.
And this ship does have Starlink internet, but it's not as good as the new ships, simply because the infrastructure inside the ship has not been updated and is not very good. Things like the actual Wi-Fi boxes and the modems, they're not as good as the new ship, so we have found the internet to be incredibly slow and patchy, despite the fact it is Starlink. You can't just stick a satellite on the top of the ship and expect it to work the same. You do have to fix the infrastructure inside as well.
So if you do require the internet on your cruise, a reliable source to maybe catch up on work and things, or watch videos, stream things, the newer ships are so much better. They really do have some of the best Wi-Fi at sea, but it is patchy on these old birds. Do remember this ship, Explorer of the Seas, is a Voyager class ship, and these were the first ever mega ships, which are really cool. So we would call these midships, as in terms of the Royal Caribbean fleet. There are older ships in the fleet as well. The older you go and the smaller you go, the less things that they're going to have on board, like the water slides and different features like that. They're going to be more minimalistic. But what is great with the really old ships is that they even have more glass windows and views, so they are fantastic for scenic cruising, like Alaska and other places like that. So yeah, this isn't the oldest type of ship. This is really in the middle of Royal Caribbean's fleet as the first ever type of mega ship. Royal Caribbean really did change the game with this type of ship. They've set the way for other cruise lines like Norwegian and MSC, who have all copied the style of Royal Caribbean. So Royal Caribbean really is the OG when it comes to mega ship cruising.
And having less people on the ship has its benefits. It's going to make it much easier to get on and off the ship because there is less crowds and less people trying to get on and off the cruise ship. Also, it makes getting around the ship easier, and it makes it feel a little bit more intimate. You do tend to see a lot of the same people. Great way to meet people, meet friends, and you do tend to get a much nicer atmosphere. Now, on the negative side, of course, you do see the same people, so if there's anybody on the ship you don't like, it's harder to lose them, isn't it?
It really is.
Also, who else is on board? The older ships and the smaller ships tend to attract a much older crowd. Not too old, but generally less families, less kids. Of course, though, this does depend on the itinerary. For example, we're on a 7-night cruise, so there is quite a few families on board. But if it is a longer itinerary or a more exotic itinerary, you tend to see less families. For example, the transatlantic we were just on, there was not that many children in comparison to how many there usually is.
Yeah, so we really do like this type of ship. It really is lovely, and it is one of our favourites, we've got to admit. But we love the newer ships as well. We have to say a big thank you to our patrons. Thank you so much for your support. In return, we give you loads more, like extra episodes, behind the scenes footage, ad-free videos, early access to our videos, and Zoom calls. If you enjoyed this video, check out our video where we go into so much detail about what Royal Caribbean ship to choose, where we talk about every single ship and which one's best for you. Click on it now. That's it till next time. Happy cruising.